Good afternoon, this is woodblock printmaker Dave Bull here in the printing room of our Asakusa workshop, bringing you part 3 in the series documenting our collaboration with the Doi Hanga company. When we left off at the end of part 2, Ayumi-san here was doing a series of tests on the blocks for a small card size image to see if they were actually printable and that we can able to move forward with this. The day after that last scene you saw, she brought me this trial copy. Now, please understand that this isn't exactly what her finished print is going to look like. She didn't even bother putting in some of the sky gradations or working out nice color tones. At this point, we're just looking to see if everything is going to basically line up. It seems to basically work. The blocks do seem to be able to coax into alignment, and none of them have any fatal flaws, unrepairable warping or excessive wear that would spoil the finished prints. But there was one aspect of this project that gave us pause, the condition of the registration marks on the blocks. Now, in the previous video I showed you this. Some of those registration marks have been adjusted and recut so many times that there's simply no wood left in those corner areas. Now, the normal approach for a printer in such a situation is to cut tiny shims of wood, we call them kuiki, and jam them in there. But it's a bit touch and go, and when you're making many copies, it's quite easy to end up with misregistration on some of them. So Ayumi-san and I talked about it, and we decided to start completely from scratch. I took the blocks back with me to our Ome workshop where we have some woodworking tools and prepared for surgery. Let's follow the process with a video I took the other day. With all the attention focused on the Asakusa workshop recently, I've been ignoring Ome, of course. I go back there once a week to do various work and meet the staff there. This is the first sub-basement there. We don't do any printmaking work here. It's a bunch of storage, exhibition supplies, and in the middle of it, some woodworking tools. This is a collection of tools that I've made myself over the years. So in the back, behind the camera tripod, there's a jigsaw. To the left of that, a big heavy table saw. And over on the right here, a new router table. And this got us started in an interesting way. Here's a snapshot from one of the 100 Poets exhibitions. This is back in 1998 or so. And there's some benches and a small little black table. And yes, you guessed it. Here it is with a new top with a sliding surface, a hole cut in the middle, and a giant heavy Hitachi router sticking up from underneath. So let the surgery begin. I've got the block face down and I'm moving it over the router bit to cut away the wood in the area of the 2 registration marks. And here's the result on a set of blocks. Some of the surfaces were a bit uneven because of the warping, so it was a bit difficult to get the bottom of those grooves exactly flat, but I think I got it close enough. Next step, to cut the small pieces of cherry wood that will go in there, we go over to my table saw. I made this about 30 years ago when I was making wooden toys for my kids. An old motor I scrounged and a bunch of plywood. That was the clutch kicking in, and you can hear there's a bit of shake, and there's an old wooden pulley inside this thing that needs replacing, but not quite sure when I get around to it. I then just cut that cherry wood into small pieces and glued and clamped them in place. And here we go, ready for the next stage. I then brought the finished blocks back here to Asakusa, and Ayumi-san and I set about cutting new registration marks on those fresh, clean inserts. Now, this is a lot easier than it might sound. Now we start with the key block, of course, and simply cut a pair of new registration marks anywhere we want. I tried to get them basically in the same area as the old ones were, but it doesn't really matter because these new registration marks define the position for all the subsequent printing. So as long as I get them clean, it doesn't matter. For the first step, Ayumi-san took a dozen or so prints from the key block using a very stiff, inflexible paper. Taking a sharp knife, I then cut out a few areas on one sheet that matched some of the carved areas on the block. This is going to be matching the red block. You'll see in a minute. Those holes here and there allow us to register this paper with the block and then tape it down in a few places so it won't move. Next step is use the edge of this paper as a guide to tell us where the printing paper should fall on this block. Remove the yellow paper, use the knife to cut some clean registration marks, and we're ready to go. So there we are, a cleaned up and renovated set of blocks. I certainly can't pretend they're like new because some of the areas really are kind of worn down, but they should print, we think. Ami-san, as you can see in the background, has now begun pulling the first batch of prints, and she should be done in a few days. So I've begun the preparations for putting this item, after trimming of course, into our catalogue, and I'll put a link for that into the description of this video. In the next episode, we'll watch step by step as she takes the thing from a blank sheet of paper up to the finished print. But for now, that'll be it this time. I don't have a special outside segment planned for this one, but there's been a lot of changes on the third floor since I last took you up there. So let's take a quick peek upstairs and see what Lee-san has been up to. Good night for now, and see you next time. Once we hit the top of the stairs, we'll pass quickly through the middle room. There's nothing happening there yet. That's just Lee-san's storage area and his working area. He's been concentrating pretty much on the front room, the far front room. And as you can see, it's almost finished. Nice carpeted area and 4 brand new workstations ready for the printers to get in here and get going. Each printer will sit with their legs down in the alcove, the hot carpet down there, then pull the angled printing bench over their lap. We'll show pictures and explain this as we get up and running. The one we're looking at here is Ahimi-san's bench, and opposite that will be the one for Kanai-san. The other two are still pretty much unassigned yet. We have news on that coming up a bit later. Now I want to take you to a part of the building you haven't seen yet. We'll head back through the center room, all Lee-san's junk, back into the rear area where there used to be a bathroom, there used to be a sink. Lee-san's ripped it all out, ready for building a new toilet, and there are stairs going up. Let's take a look. This is an area that's been completely neglected. Look at the rusty paint on this door. Just nobody's used this at all. Anyway, here we go out into the clean, fresh winter air. Maybe we should think about opening a bowling alley up here. But actually there's another kind of, I can't say sport, that we're going to be interested in doing. Every summer over on the Sumidagawa they have a giant fireworks festival, and guess where it's held? Right in that open space. Are we ready for a party? And there we are, the beautiful Tokyo sky tree. Over at the front end of the building we look down on the Rokudori. It's pretty quiet this afternoon. I think this is a Tuesday I took this video. And now we can see clearly our Shachi Hoko. It's a half tiger, half fish that protects our building from fire and flood and who knows, perhaps even earthquake. And we even, if you find the right vantage point, have a view of the famous 5-story pagoda over at Sensoji. I think that come the warm weather next summer, I'm going to find myself a little camping cot and start spending some nights up here.